The Royal Blue Podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Good win at Plymouth. Just sort of give us an idea of how the lads played and you know.
Played very well.
Yes.
Played in a way that we've moulded the team and system into what we've got left after January. So this core group of 14, 15 players now that we've got is going to be us till the end of the season. So we are what we are now, and we've got to try and get over the line and secure ourselves in the league first and foremost. Thankfully we've progressed in the cup, so that's a little carrot for the players. But we need a couple of wins in the league and then we can enjoy the rest of the season. And but we played well, we played some good stuff.
Just on that, I did notice that there were some Evertonians who'd gone down.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, I was standing on the touchline and then I could hear them behind me, you know, encouraging the players and the individuals, and I heard all these Scouse accents, and I looked behind and there was like a few people there. I thought, brilliant, good on you.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a good trip. Yeah, it was a really good trip, and we played some good stuff, and I was delighted with them.
So give us an idea, because for a lot of the fans who take maybe don't go to many 23s games, but obviously take an interest in the team, there will not be too many names.
No.
That they're necessarily familiar with, and the players that they've heard about who've been pushing are either out on loan or progressed. What's the average age of your team you're playing with now, and who are the kind of the players that are coming through? So
it's been a tough season in terms of us trying to sustain a level of performance, because there's been that many changes in and out of individuals for different reasons that we'll go over. But I've never really had, until the end of January, a settled squad of players to work with throughout a whole week leading up to a game.
Right.
It's been very bitty this season. It's been transitional, you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's just been a little bit messy from start to finish. But some year, we have that. Some year, the cycle of players. Sometimes we've had it once before, where you feel like you can never really work on, you know, a team tactic. You're working really individually, or within groups, units, whatever you might call it, because you've never got your full team until maybe the day before. And in some cases this year, a lot of the time, maybe just the day of the game, you know, we're walking through stuff in the afternoon of a game, in the evening, because we've not been able to put together a team, because they've been training with the first team basically, and that has taken precedent for a number of the players this year. So it's not through anybody's fault. It's just circumstances this year. Either a lot of the players have left, a lot of the players have trained with the first team, and we've got new young players. So, you know, we've been sort of here, there and everywhere, and putting a team together throughout the whole season. Eventually now, because of January, it's settled down, and you know we can now work with this group now until the end of the season. So in that respect, from a coach's point of view, it's better.
Sorry, Sam. Do you know off the top of your head roughly what the average age of your 11 would be now, or your 14?
It'll be younger than probably we've ever been.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact figure, but if you look at it, I would say around 19. You know, I heard Critch talking the other day when he took the Liverpool team that, you know, he says it's an under-23 team. It's not an under-23 team. It's under-20s team or under-19s team. And we've found that this year, that in games where we've come up against older players, we've struggled, because it's been very bitty.
Yeah.
We are now starting to see those kind of younger players coming through, and some exciting ones as well. You know, Tyler's done well, Tyler and Yango, and he's played. We've got Lewis Dobbin and Kyle John starting to make a bit of a mark. What is it that you kind of have to see in lads from the under-18s, or what reports do you have to be given for you to then hand them a chance in your team? Because as you always point out, it's under-18s to under-23s. People might not think it, but it's a big step, isn't it?
It's a huge step. I'll argue this till the day I die, that I think the biggest jump is under-18s to under-23s. A lot of people will say, well, what about under-23s to first team? I think if you're a regular under-23 player, to have a cameo role or to play a certain amount of minutes in the first team, it's not as big an ask in all levels of technical, tactical, physicality, mental, than under-18s to under-23s. Those players, Lewis, Dobbin, Tyler, Seb Quirk, I'm trying to think there's any more. They're probably the main three. Ryan Astley, but he's been with us a year. that age group, sort of second year scholars, first year scholars, their performances have been great for Paul and his under 18 team. They've shown a level of physicality when they've trained with us. So what the natural progression is, they play well for Paul's team consistently. They might come and train with us. We have a look at them in terms of how they handle the ball. Are they physically, can they compete? And those players have, certainly Tyler and Seb more recently, have been able to handle the physicality of sort of not just playing in the games, but what we do and how we train as well, which is a very, very big ask for under 18 players, in comparison to what they do in training in the week and what we do in training in the week, and then leading into a game. So it's a big jump. And those players have handled it well this year. We won't see the best of them till next season, certainly in our group. But they've had a good grounding this year of what the demands are for our team.
Do you yourself try and watch as much of the under 18s as you can, or are you kind of relying on what Paul tells you? Well,
Paul and I speak every day. He speaks to myself, John, Franny. We've got great communication with Paul and Keith. Good guys, really good coaches, and we have a good relationship. If I don't get to see the game for whatever reason, I always watch the replay on the laptop, so that's never an issue. So we know who's playing well, and we have good communication lines, so there's never an issue there.
How are you kind of hoping to we're not kind of fighting for a title this season? How are you going to measure the development of people like Tyler and the lads coming through?
I think all the minutes that these guys get, first of all, we need to just secure our place in the league as soon as possible, and then we want to give Tyler, Seb, Reece, Lewis, with all the sort of the core group for next year, as many opportunities this year to give them that grounding for next season, and I think next season will be a really good team.
What have you made of, and I've asked you this throughout your time in this job, is the standard of the under-23s programme and the game and the system and the games on offer, is it better now than when you started? Are you happy with it?
I think it's changing. I think the under-23 team is getting younger every year. It's so much to say that we seem to be bypassing under-18 football and becoming an under-19s, under-20s team. I still will argue the position of B teams being the best way to develop young players a lot quicker than we can do in this league. The Premier League do the best that they can. They give a great games programme. They have the International Cup. They have the Premier League Cup in a league format. So you're playing every week, which is not what we had 4 or 5 years ago, I have to say. So the Premier League have listened, and they are trying to do the best that they can. It would still not be a substitute for B-team football. B-team football is, for me, why we don't have it in this country, I'll never know. You wouldn't have to loan your players. Loaning players now is part of young players' journeys. So it goes under 16, get a scholarship. Scholarship, can you get a professional contract? Professional contract, can you get in the under 23 team? Under 23 team, got to go on loan. There seems to be that extra step of being a loan player now, coming back off loan, maybe signing a new contract to go to a higher level. There's 2 or 3 more steps now in a player's journey than there's ever been, other than the odd one that you might jump a couple of levels. So we're actually now producing players for other clubs. But it seems to be the fact that we're sort of missing out on under 18s football. In an ideal scenario, these players would play 2 years for the under 18s and find a level of success and get greater confidence by not having to rush. But now everybody's in a rush. Everybody wants a pathway. Even now we're selling a pathway, whereas before it was entrusted in you that you would take your time, and a natural progression would be to do A, B, C, D. Now a player wants to go from A to E, F, in a season. Everyone's in a rush to find the next player. So development has been accelerated, and we seem to be younger now. I seem to be taking a lot more players off Paul. Paul's taking a lot more under-16s earlier in the season than he would ever do, and it seems to be going like that the under-23 league now is becoming I would probably say an under-21 league, back to under-21 league.
Right, yeah.
Because now, you look at the success we've had in loans this year in the Championship, League One. Everybody, and I have to say, it's really tough to loan players. I have, myself, Marcel, Greta, the manager, whoever, we're talking about loans. We don't handpick these clubs. The clubs have got to come to us because they've got to play our players. And a lot of clubs in League One, League Two, it's a big gamble to loan a young player, and it's not as easy as people might think loaning players out. I know I've seen reports going, why isn't this player loaned? Why doesn't he get? Because the club hasn't come in for him. Because he might not be there that night where he scores 2 or 3 and plays well. And that's when I speak to our players and I say about consistency and levels of performance. You just never know who's watching. You never know when that manager might be in the stand watching you play. And you've got to perform week in, week out. So it is tough to loan young players at the moment. But certainly we're becoming a lot more of a younger team than we have been in my sort of time here.
And of course, with the loan thing as well, Unzi, if we had B team football, the club go to huge lengths to monitor players who are out on loan, and probably to great expense as well.
Yeah.
And I guess if they're in house playing for a B team representing the club, it's easier to keep an eye on them because they're not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very passionate about my job, and I'm very passionate about what we do. We're here to produce Everton players first and foremost. That is, for me, that's the most important point of the job. That I want to see our boys. I want to see them win. Of course I do. I want to see them perform. That goes without saying. That's a given at this club. You have to be able to win. But I want to see them play for Everton. If they can't play for Everton and there's a pathway eventually to Everton's first team, brilliant. We'll go along with that. But we want to produce Everton players. We want to produce players that will play in our first team. Anthony Gordon's their latest one, who he's had a couple of appearances, and we're looking for him to find that level of performance to cement his place in the team. So we don't want to produce players for other clubs. First and foremost, we want to produce players for us. If they have to go to other clubs to then be able to then get a chance somewhere down the line, that's fine. But we don't want to be a football factory. We don't want to be like other clubs do, where the under-23 team is a ways of making money, ins and outs. I want to produce Everton players. Yeah. That's what I'm passionate about. There's no greater feeling than seeing Dominic, Anthony Gordon, Mason, Tom, John Joe when he's played. All these players, it just fills me with so much pride.
Is that getting harder though? Is that job of getting players into the first team?
Without doubt.
Because we wanted to ask you, that great squad that won the Premier League 2 title in 17, John Joe captain, etc. There we go.
Yeah.
And
look how many players there.
I know, unfortunately, the majority aren't in our first team squad.
No.
Is that illustrative of how difficult it is and how
absolutely
how tough it continues to be?
Yeah, it's probably the toughest time I think for a young player to be a Premier League player. Every club now, not just the top clubs, not just the top 10 clubs, every single club from 1 to 20 scours the world for the best talent, and they have the pick of the players from around the world because, let's get it right and let's be honest, the Premier League pays more money than any other league. Maybe China, obviously, but that's maybe for an older player. But everybody wants to be a Premier League footballer. So it's the toughest thing now to produce young players. Managers have got to be so confident within themselves of playing a young player. So that's another thing that when I look at some managers who have Premier League jobs, that they're so, you don't know when they're going. 3 games from the sack, some of them. So they can't risk. They can't risk playing time for young players, and young players, no matter who they are, young players take time to develop, and they make mistakes. And unfortunately, the way the game is at the moment, the managers can't afford any mistakes. They just can't afford any.
it's getting more difficult to break into the first team then, but do you also feel like sometimes people, and I'll include, John Ebro and Frank Jeffers and all your kind of backroom team in this, but do you feel like people sometimes don't respect how difficult the position you're put in is as well? When we spoke in the summer, sometimes you've got first team lads asking for a game, you've got under 18s banging on the door, and then the bottom line, you're trying to make a football team that ultimately wins football matches like any manager does.
I think we all know the role. I know the role, John knows the role. That's part of what I call it. That's sort of when first team players come down for whatever reason. That's nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
That's like the old reserve team football where they need a game, or they're injured, or say Umar, he's out of favour and he needs a game. That has to take priority. The most important thing at any football club is your first team, and the first team results at the end on a 5 o'clock on a Saturday or whatever you play. That is the most important thing, bar none, at any football club, is your first team results. Then after that, you're looking at development and you're looking at opportunities. So the under-23 team is, as many factors, it is a platform for existing professionals to try and become Everton players, for young players to get early opportunities to springboard them on loan. And it's also a team that, if a first team player needs a game, he gets a game. So that's part of the job, and I've no problem with that. No problem at all. A lot of clubs don't allow first team players to play. That's up to them. For me, I've always said to whoever's the manager, if the player needs a game, he gets a game. Because your first team squad, your first team players, your first team manager, your first team results are the be all and end all of your football club, and that takes priority. Everything else then has got a pecking order, and we know our place.
Is the emphasis on your job and maybe what's specifically required, and maybe the way you're being asked to coach, or has it changed now that Marcel's come into the football club? Has he tried to change things at all for you?
Marcel and I have a brilliant relationship. We speak all the time. He's at most of the games, which is great for me. Yeah. That you have a director of football who wants the players to do well. We speak. I'm on the loan committee, so we speak about young players. We speak about the next window coming up on, what we've got, who's going to go out on loan. Sorry, who's going to be available to go out on loan. So we speak all the time. It's and he's been great for me. It's great to have somebody of that level at the club actually taking an interest in your job and in the players that you're working with every day. So that's been a great help for me. It takes so obviously Marcel will do all the contracts and he will speak to all the agents, so I can really concentrate on the coaching side of it. So in that respect, my job has changed, so I concentrate solely and purely on the players and the coaching. In terms of type of football, no, I think I've spoken to Marcel about being able for players to be able to play in different formations, different ways. Depending, look at Carlo now. We're playing 4-4-2. Before that we played a different way. Managers will come and go. If the players are good enough, they'll be able to adapt to different formations and different styles. That, I think, is something that we do very well, where we make players aware of the demands of more than one position. Would you ever, because people who watch the 23s regularly will see that you do change formation. Yeah. Have you ever changed formation, and I mean this in the nicest sense, for the sake of it, just to test the players, regardless of the opposition? Have you and Ebo and gone, we're going to play 5 at the back today? Yeah, absolutely. We do it quite a lot. We do it, usually what we do is we mould whatever team we've got available. Yeah. We mould that into what we feel is the strongest team within a certain formation of who we're going to play and how we can win a game. Yeah. But there are times when we've played the formation. I mean, we've had so many defenders this year, so we've ended up playing 5 at the back quite a lot. So it's nice to get to the back 4 now. So we've got 1 or 2 players available in midfield now that we haven't had before. So yeah, we change it up for different reasons. But usually 9 times out of 10 we mould a formation around the players that we've got available. In terms of the players then that you do change, do you think that benefits them in the long run? When we look at like Nathangelo, Mikello, I've seen Lewis Gibson playing a few positions, Matty Folds as well, and Benny Beningame.
Is this something that's kind of helpful to them to see them playing in different types of roles within their position?
I think so. I think the demands of the game now, when you look at what, so we always go off what are the first team doing with the first team training, what are the first team stats looking like, what are the demands for a first team player in a certain position, what is he doing, what is he, we're always wary and we're always quite comparative of what the first team are doing over a period of time. So if central midfielders are doing a certain physicality, they're doing certain amount of sprints or high speed, and we're nowhere near those levels, we'll ask ourselves why and get our players to be playing in a way that will get those numbers up. We practically try and mirror a first team environment, and also I think in the modern day game, players are being asked to play more than one position. Certainly, the flexibility of being able to play in the different positions, I think, can only help young players.
Have you spoken a lot to Carlo since he came in?
Yeah, I have to say, he has been brilliant. It's probably the first time I've ever been a coach and been in awe of someone, and sort of couldn't wait to meet him. He's brilliant. He open arms, open door policy. He said to us as under 23 staff that watch training every day, watch whenever. I work with the first team once a week now. I say work. I'm with them one day a week in terms of seeing what the preparation is, seeing what their analysis is going into a game, and seeing Carlo work with his staff. Absolutely top class, outstanding man first and foremost, and I am just delighted. As an Evertonian, I'm delighted that he's the manager of our football club.
What's that experience like? I mean, shadowing a 3-time Champions League winner mustn't be too bad.
It's enjoyable. I'm pecking in his ear all the time, asking him questions, but I have to say that the man has been fantastic to us as a staff, and we are very lucky to have him and privileged to have him, and it's a privilege to work alongside him.
And receptive to the idea of, he's obviously taken a keen interest in Anthony Gordon, who was already part of the first team fold. But is he talking to you about players?
Yeah, he's asked me obviously about the young players, about Anthony. We've spoken in great detail about Dominic. He really likes Dominic. Obviously Mason as well. Yeah. So he likes his young players. Which is music to my ears. It's brilliant. But just a couple of things that you see. You see his aura on the training ground, around the ground, on the pitch, and it's no surprise or shock to me, having seen him work, the fact that we're getting results from it. He's top class.
Any drills or anything you've seen of Carlos that you might try and
well, it's interesting how he's stayed with what the 4-4-2 that I've read his book and I've seen his teams play in the past, and there's nothing that you haven't already seen, or there's no magic wand. It's stuff we know, but he just has a way and an aura about him that he just personifies confidence. Yeah. And I see, and he not relaxed. I can't say relaxed because he's very intense in his work that he does.
In control,
yeah. Unbelievably. But you just know. I've experienced it not to Carlo's level. I experienced it with Joe Royal, Harry Redknapp. They have a way of just making you feel great about yourself, and I don't know why, but you seem to go that extra mile for them. You shouldn't, because everybody should should get, but there's just a confidence that just beams off him, that is just rubs off on the players. Yeah, that's the best way. I mean, it rubs off on me as a coach. I've stood next to him last week at the training ground and I felt great. I wasn't even taking part in the session, and I just thought, there's Carlo Ancelotti. It's brilliant. It's brilliant, and for us to get that manager is one of the biggest statements I think this club's ever made.
Do you think there's extra motivation then for the lads now at the moment? Trying, obviously they can get called up to first team training sometimes.
That's something I have to say that every manager that I've worked with has always worked with young players in training. If he needs a body or he needs something in preparation, that I can't say no manager has never done that. Every manager has done that really well. But I know he's playing Mason, he's played Tom, he's playing Dominic. Anthony's had a look in with him as well. So I know that he likes young players, but again, only if they're good enough. And these players, we give them all the advice, the tools, all the opportunities that we can. They've got to step over that white line, and they've got to produce performances, because where we want to go as a club, where we are going as a club, it's you've got to be at the very, very best of your abilities, and it's tough. It's really, really tough, but that's the world that we live in.
Go on, mate.
When you have players like Anthony and Dom and Mason, again, to look at that picture behind you, a lot of these lads are playing professional football to a good standard. But what is it about the lads, maybe like Dom, Tom, Anthony, the first time you see them play, do you always have that maybe gut feeling that these are a little bit maybe more, have something more about them?
It's personality. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's personality. It's you have to tick certain boxes. You have to be technically very good. You have to take on board tactical information and learn quickly. The best players learn, the quickest. You've got to be able to run in the Premier League. You've got to be able to compete physically.
Yeah,
they're three things that, if you've not got any of those three, you need all three to be a Premier League player. But then when you are successful in the Premier League now, you look at the attitude, the personality of that individual. And all those players have got personality in abundance, and some more as well. So it's no surprise to me to see the lads doing well, and the lads who are on loan doing well, because they've got the personalities.
Because that's interesting. Sorry to interrupt, because a few years ago, academy football generally was accused of being this lab and very sort of just producing generic type of footballers. Yeah. But from what you're saying, maybe they've stood out because they're not, and they are in their own style.
I think academy football has been brilliant from when EPPP first started, and the Premier League, sort of took over that. I think that's only been a good thing. I wish I'd have had the opportunities that our young players have got over the years. Some things in football will never change. Being a first team player at Everton requires everything that we've just mentioned, but you also need to have the resilience, the personality, the mental toughness to become a regular Everton player and a successful Everton player. Now, the academies, they can't give you that. No matter what we try and do and how we try and create whatever environment, you can't give somebody a personality. You can't give somebody the resilience to be able to bounce back from disappointment very, very quickly and still keep that enthusiasm and great attitude. That's in you. That's your upbringing. That's your the parenting. That's your surroundings at a very young age that is instilled deep inside you. Now, what we need to do is identify and recruit players with all the technical, tactical, physical abilities, but with those personalities as well. And I think in Mason and Dominic we did that brilliantly. And then your John Joes, who's doing brilliant this year. All the other players. Look at Anthony Robinson. Personality. I can go through them all. The long list of lads who are doing well, who have been through our system. All the ones who are doing well have got all the qualities, all the four corners they call it. Plus, they've got personality, and the ones who make it will always be the ones who make it. You can identify that at a very young age, and you can see it in them. You can see it in the personalities that they'll go to the very top.
One player that we hope will eventually go to the very top at this club is the new signing, Jarrad Branthwaite. You've had him for a few weeks now. Yeah. How's he settling in?
I think he's settled in. His best performance was the other day. Having played, League Two, I was expecting him to come in and just, be the man, that I've certainly seen on the clips that I've watched him. But you forget this is Everton, and it's a massive move for any young player. No matter where you've been. So he took a few weeks to find his feet, but he's starting to look the part, and we're working with him all the time, and it's interesting that seeing him on the game, he looked like a totally different player than his first couple of games. So this bonus ball for him from now till the end of the season. I'm looking forward to working with him in pre-season. He'll be a very good addition.
For people who might not have seen him play, what kind of defender is he? Is he a ball-playing defender, or is he more of a traditional stopper?
No, I think he's more ball playing. He's more of that type. He's very, very comfortable, easy on the eye with the ball at his feet. He's got great range passing. He likes to step into midfield. So it's the ugly side of the game that will probably be that I'll be working most with him.
Yeah.
In his positioning and how aggressive he is in the tackle and in the air. So they're all things that you can develop. You know, a tactical awareness. You know, that you can easily put that right. But the raw materials look good for the future with him. He's got a lot of plus points.
Are you giving him a reference point? I don't know, maybe somebody like Mason played in the Football League, came in to work with you, and then very quickly.
Yeah, I think Mason. I think probably a step too far. You look at Lewis Gibson, probably we brought in 2 years ago. Very similar types. You know, the work that we've done with Lewis on his defensive side of the game. No one disputes him stepping into midfield. His left foot, his passing range. But if you can't defend, you won't play in the Premier League. Well, certainly not in my book anyway. So Lewis has done brilliant in the last couple of years defensively, and he's got himself a loan, and he's getting rave reviews now on his loan. So Lewis's next step will be to hopefully get a first team squad position or another higher loan next year. So there's that loan move we're talking about at the beginning. I see Jarrad maybe doing the same, but we've got to give him that grounding of, you know, what are the raw materials that are needed for an Everton player. And we've done it with Mason, done it with Lewis, and we'll certainly do it with Jarrad now. So he's another one in the queue.
You've been listening to the Royal Blue podcast from the Liverpool Echo.